Welcome to Raw Radio.
And we are live.
Yes,
we can't stop laughing.
Well,
we gotta take a look at the big picture now.
that's right. The big picture.
The big picture. We just wrapped up a quite interesting episode with Comprido. What are your thoughts on this?
On Comprido or on the big picture?
Well, I guess Comprido in a big picture.
Right, in the big picture. And we're going to talk about the big picture probably as it pertains to jiu-jitsu, but I think that people are too focused on maybe short-term goals or expectations that they had set for themselves. And I think those are different. I don't think expectations and goals are the same. They don't look at the big picture, right? What is it? What does it really take to get there? Are all the parts of the journey part of it, So for me, the big picture is always looking at taking every aspect of your experiences and seeing how you can fit them into your goals, how you can learn from them, how you can move forward, progress, develop, and how, the big picture, I think, is something that we don't think about too much here in the States. We're focused on instant gratification a lot.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. That's the unfortunate part of, I think, today's life. As an instructor, I can tell you that I've seen it firsthand where students compare themselves to other students, where as an individual, they look at, hey, this is what I'm doing, this is what they are doing, and we compare apples to apples. And it's specifically in jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu is not cookie cutter. It is very difficult to measure. It is very difficult to establish the progression scale for each individual. And I think what is important when this conversation comes up particularly is for everyone to remember that, one, we are two different individuals. That's one, but also jiu-jitsu is different for each of us. And comparing myself to somebody else is not setting myself for success, but is also impacting the other person, where their perception is beginning skewed because of the way I act or the way what I say. So, and I think that's one of the most difficult things as an instructor that you are looking at. There is, I think, potential in a lot of people. There's no secret that everybody wants to learn. There's no secret everybody wants to get better, because we wouldn't be on the mat if we didn't. The challenge is the fact that we start comparing ourselves to others, and that is becoming the focus. Is the fact, how do I compare myself to Bobby or to Joey or to Kathy or whoever, and we lose the sight of us making the progress. Because what is the goal? The goal in jiu-jitsu is for us to learn. As we're stepping on the mat, there's several different components, and it is complex. Anybody who tells you jiu-jitsu is not complicated, it is complicated. Especially us human makes it even more complicated. The way how our brains work, the way how we process information, the way how we transfer information, recall, and troubleshoot. It is complex. And us comparing ourselves to somebody else is really not doing us justice, right? So that's why competitions are often so interesting, because just because you are really good does not mean you win. Just because you are not as good as everybody else does not mean you lose. It is so many more layers to all of this, and it's showing up at that moment and performing at that moment with that person. That is what makes it so interesting. So I would encourage everybody to look at the big picture. What is your goal? What do we need to do to get there? And how do we execute to be the most successful? And Comprido talked about it quite a bit.
Yeah, and I I like to flip it maybe a little bit too, is not the what do you need to get there, but understanding that everything you've been through helped you get there. Um, he talked a lot about in early in his career, you know, even now, all the way till now, about getting smashed and getting beat and being a blue belt and getting beat by white belts, um, and all the way up until he got his black belt, where uh, he wanted all those people that helped him through his journey to be there to witness it, um, because they were part of the bigger picture, right? He said, his peripheral vision, he wanted to, when he looked down, he could see the black belt around his waist, but his peripheral vision, he could see all the other people that were there that made that happen. um, and not only the people that make it happen, but the experiences that make it happen. Losing in tournaments, losing during training, um, and then having the mindset to develop from that rather than being discouraged by it. Right? How do I make this? How do I use this to make me better? How do I learn from it? And then you take that knowledge that you've gained and you stick it in your toolbox, and you have more things to work with. Um, I think that people think that whenever you lose, you got to put that behind you. You got to forget about that. Don't forget about it. Use it. Right? Why did you lose? Who did you lose to? What did you learn from it? All that stuff. It's super important, and that's going to get you. That's part of the bigger picture. And I don't want to confuse, like, the big picture is the goal. I think they're two completely separate things. I think everything that happens throughout the journey is the big picture.
Well, the goal is the destination, but the bigger picture is the journey, right?
Yeah.
The everything wrapping around it, right? When I was starting my jiu-jitsu journey, I was told flat out, you will never be a black belt for many
Yeah.
reasons, but you'll never get there ever, ever. It's just so hard. If you're in it for a black belt, just quit right now. Literally, flat out, just give up right now. If you're in it for jiu-jitsu itself, if you're in it to learn, if you're in it to get smashed, oh, then stick around. Come back
Mhm.
tomorrow. I mean, that's literally. So my expectation never was um, to have the belt as a goal. It was more as you're going through these motions to experience and go through this journey itself, right? Which often today it's not the case. Often the belts are the goal,
Mhm.
not the journey is the goal. And I think that's where a lot of students are not seeing the same success. They get wrapped up in this win lose scenarios, and something that you just talked about. Things don't go according to plan, and we hyper focus on these losses, and we try to forget them and move on to the next one instead of analyzing what went wrong or what didn't go well, and how do we adjust from it. So take the failures and learn from them versus celebrate success only. Success doesn't bring the growth, the failures do. And that
Mhm.
is, I think, embracing that philosophy really brings the big picture all together and gives you the opportunity, because that's all it is an opportunity for growth and success.
Yeah, I think if you don't take the losses and the beatings and the smashings, um, you got to take the good with the bad, and that might not even necessarily be bad. I think how you get up after you just got destroyed, and your mindset when you get up, uh, all helps you along your journey. And if your journey is just I want my blue belt, I want my blue belt, I think maybe you come twice a week, and eventually you're going to get it. You'll get it eventually. In most schools, most academies, you'll get it.
I don't know. I mean,
But
Comprido is questioning that theory, right? I mean, he
well, there's
specifically
some
used for
hardcore.
progress, right?
Yeah, there's some hardcore instructors out there that you won't get it. But I think there's other places where it's like, he's been around long enough, you know, um, he can have it. But I think, if you're there 4 times a week, and even if the guys that you're training with are beating you all the time, um, I think that when you get that belt, it's going to mean so much more. when you get, as you start moving up and you start getting, what are you getting recognized for? And I think if you're honest with yourself, you're going to know, right? Are you getting recognized because you paid your monthly payment on time for 3 years? Or are you getting recognized because you took a beating for 5 years? And which one is worth more? Which one did you really earn? The first one you earned by going to work every day and making enough money to make your payment. The second one you earned by getting your ass kicked every day, right? And what is going to mean more to you in the long run? What are you going to look back on when you're 65? And for you, that's just a couple of years on, and appreciate more. Is it going to be what you paid for monetarily, or is it going to be what you paid for physically, mentally, and your time? So if you put those into the bigger picture concept, somebody who's in there, who's getting on in years, who did jujitsu for a long time, who really put in the work, I think is going to have much fonder memories and appreciate what they did more than somebody who just showed up and wrote a check or had an automatic deduction taken out of their bank account.
I mean, it's all about perspective, right?
I don't believe that. I don't believe that. There is a reality, and it's not all about perspective. There is a reality, and the person who earned it on the mat, it's worth more, whether they recognize it or not, and whether the guy who just paid for it recognizes it or not. The reality is out there. Whether people choose to see it or not, that's up to them.
I agree. I mean, it's the bubble that we live in, right? Are you looking outside of the bubble, or you really hyper focus on me all the time? And a second factor of all of this is, are you a victim, or are you continuously driving towards getting better, right? Because that that's having obstacles ahead of us is a big factor of, this doesn't go well and so on. So we're getting into a completely different topic at this point. But I think the main takeaway here for today is, as you guys are listening to this and the conversation with Comprido, is the simple fact of focus on the big picture. Sometimes focusing on the immediate right now, today, is not what is going to get us to tomorrow. It's what are we doing here? Why are we here? And how can we take what we've learned in the past and turn this into a successful path towards the future?
Yeah, he said something about, why we do what we do and the mechanics of what we do, right? Talking about just jujitsu, and that's what's going to make you improve. Taking that understanding, and understanding is part of the big picture. Mm-hmm. Bowling over people, that might get you some wins or successes, in class, in sparring sessions. But there's going to come a day, if you're competing or even in sparring sessions, there's going to come a day where the guy who you used to bowl over all the time, who put in the work and understands why and the mechanics, is going to start catching you, because you're just doing the same thing over and over and over, and he's going to catch it, and he's going to catch on. And the next thing you know, that's not going to work for you anymore, because you weren't looking at the big picture. You were just looking at beating people up in sparring.
I've seen this so many times where, this quiet little guy or girl in the corner who, everybody's been beating up for years, the one day just shows up and it's just wiping the floor with everybody.
Yeah, they flip the switch, right?
They flip the switch, right? Mm-hmm. There's one thing that really hit me while we were speaking with Comprido, and he said, everybody wants to quit. Our mind plays games with us very, very often. It's all about that one extra second, one extra step. Quitting is not an option, even though we want to. Mm-hmm. But the quitting is not an option. I just need to get through this one step at a time. And I think that is fundamental to seeing that big picture and how do we make it work to achieve what we planned.
Okay, then.
All right. Shall we wrap up?
All right. Sure, let's do it.
To the next one.
On to the next one. I'll see you soon. Take care and peace.
Take care.
Thank you for listening to Raw Radio.
If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to leave us a review and help us make the show even more amazing. For future episodes, check out our website and follow us on all major podcast platforms. Take care.